I found a new idea for videos related to the structure of revenge, what I love and hate about the show and how it could have been improved in the later seasons. I stumbled on a YouTube channel by a writer who makes bad versus good videos in terms of story writing and character development. He shows good and bad examples of movies and explains what they did good or bad regarding the writing. So I thought it would be a great idea to combine some rankings with the good and bad idea. The first 3 videos will include a ranking of the most bad and good episodes of Revenge. And because it was hard to decide, I will make a third video with the messy middle. Some episodes who are not as bad but also not that quite good. Disclaimer. As I said in my episode talks, I am not a writer and sure as hell no professional. I just enjoy watching TV shows and this one especially. So no offense to all professionals out there who are actually making these great entertaining TV shows on ABC and other American platforms and TV channels. But let's dive right into the first video with 15 of the most bad episodes of Revenge. Since all fans of Revenge know the problems with Season 2, it will be no surprise that many episodes from this season found its way into the first ranking. And here comes my least favorite episode from the entire show, Episode 11 from Season 2. Of course it had to be Season 2 and of course it deals with the initiative. I even hate the title Sabotage because it is that generic. It has also the worst prologue for my taste.
They say the best laid plans often go awry, because no matter how detailed the preparation, a plan will always have a weak point, and there will always be those looking to exploit it, to doom a plan to failure, and the perpetrator along with it.
Not only it felt forced using the flash forward here, it was also a cheap trick.
Let's see if she buys it.
In Season 1 and 3 it worked when they used the flash forward in other episodes than the pilot and winter season finale. For example, the episode with Tyler's outburst in Season 1 and Emily's disgrace at the opera in Season 3. It was thrilling because we did not know the outcome before the end of the episode. But here with Emily lying presumably dead on the floor, it is just a bad trick. No one would believe that the main character was killed off in that matter, and not even in a finale. I mean, the whole show centers about her and her revenge mission. So Emily has to stay alive until the very end. Unless Aidan, Jack or Nolan were in the position to take over and revenge her death. Yet this early in the show you cannot see that coming. So here it was just bad writing for the sake of the show effect. I also hate the whole stuff around Helen Crawley. I think she is the worst villain and character of Revenge. She is just so annoying and not threatening at all. Her scenes with Conrad and Aidan feel unintentionally funny on second watch. The only thing I enjoyed in this episode was Nolan's humor and his funny remarks towards Aidan as Bond.
Oh, look at you, all gussied up like 007 again.
So what do you got for us today, Q?
Per Moneypenny's request.
This dynamic is one of the few things that made me stick around in Season 2.
Perfect. Let's have you on the team.
Even the fashion of our leading ladies was not at the top, rating the importance of the event for Emily and Victoria. I mean, why did Victoria wear red and Emily went for green? A hint at Aidan's jealousy? And that Victoria is going back plotting against Emily soon? And I still hate Daniel's behavior towards Emily in these few episodes before they get back together. His attempts to win her back are so over the top, and how he aggressively is flirting with her here. No comment.
For instance, that wine auction, where we had that really awful red. What was your ulterior motive then? And here I thought you just wanted me drunk so you could have your way with me.
No wonder the episode after this, called Collusion, is not that much better. Again we have Helen Crawley and her absurd demands driving the story forward.
What do I have to do?
Kill Victoria Grayson. You have 24 hours.
I guess the writers thought these little hints were very clever and we would enjoy seeing all falling into place in the finale. But it was just too complicated and way too long prepared in advance. I must admit, I even just did not care at all about this dark plot of the initiative. It was just getting more and more annoying that Emily, Aidan and Nolan kept guessing what the big plan is and did not have a clue at all. Even more annoying that they just sent the 3 on these redundant missions and gave them the most silly tasks. I mean, why should Aidan kill Victoria? Did Helen even expect him to do so? Was it a loyalty test? I mean, if she was suspicious of Emily's and Aidan's connection and we had someone new who would discover Emily's biggest secret, that would have been interesting. It also would have gave the authors the opportunity to bring us back to the main story, which still is the Graysons' crimes and their role in the David Clarke conspiracy. I also hate the dynamic between Emily and Daniel in this episode.
Daniel, I
can't just pick up and leave. I didn't even bring anything with me.
Don't worry, I packed you a bag. I even bought you a couple new outfits for Los Angeles. It's all on board.
I get why he is so excited and yet has no clue about Emily and Aiden. They are very precautious in this season.
You need to use the back door. I can't have Victoria seeing you here again.
And the opening with Emily not knowing who she should expect in her bed was fun. It showed us in the most simply and efficient way what is her biggest conflict with Daniel from the start. When is she going too far with him? But that love triangle in season 2 was doomed from the start. Cause Aiden fought hard in the background to get Emily's trust back and become her partner again. And he is at the time the only one of her potential love interests who knows her real identity and helps her with her revenge agenda. How could Daniel possibly come between them? Sure, there must be an echo of old feelings from last year. But now Emily knows that Daniel is not that much better as his parents.
Apart from your dance with Danny boy, well, just as long as you know that he's not an innocent, whatever your feelings were for him last summer, his actions now are pure grace.
I know. That's why I walked away from him.
And by the end of season 1 she was starting to hate him.
He's one of them, Nolan. Daniel could have come clean, but instead...
He doubled down on Grace.
So how could there be a real future for them besides this fake one? And do not get me started on this side plot with Victoria's paramour. We get she is a seductress and using men to her advantage.
What I want is you. But you've known that all along.
We have seen this far better and more thrilling in season 1. The scenes with Dominic Wright were much hotter and intense than this. The guy has no chemistry with Madeline Stowe, and even though he seems to be a competitor of Conrad, we never hear from him again. While they had a whole backstory for Dominic and Vicky in season 1. Even with a flashback. Another story arc I dislike in season 2 was Jack's doubts and problems with Fomander. I get that Emily tries to stir up trouble because she is jealous. But I really hate how she is using and manipulating both Jack and Fomander at the beginning of season 2.
Jack, I hope you don't think I'm a horrible person for saying this, but are you absolutely sure the baby's yours?
I've wanted a family my whole life. I'm not jeopardizing that for you or anyone else.
I thought we were family.
By the way, I really hate the prologues from season 2. They try to be that pregnant like in the first season. But most prologues are dull like this one.
For those who believe in resurrection, death is inconsequential. It's not an ending, but rather a new beginning. But the very idea of resurrection is so seductive a concept, it's easy to forget. Before you can rise from the dead, you have to spend a few days in hell.
And again they use this show effect with no real meaning, turning Emily's dream of her mother into a nightmare with Victoria. The idea is not bad, and I like how they play around the fact Victoria becoming her mother-in-law when she was supposed to be her stepmother in the past. But tying her fake death with Kara Clarke's disappearance was just bad writing. I mean, besides falling for the same man, these two women have zero in common. And in both cases it was no real resurrection, cause neither Victoria nor Kara died. They just made everyone believe that they were dead to hide themselves. Like Emily is hiding her true identity, so the title Resurrection seems not at all fitting for this episode.
In the resurrection, those that were dead live, and those who live believe they shall never die.
Another thing I emphasized in my episode talks, how they depicted the relationship between Charlotte and her mother here. Though Charlotte was never my favorite character in season 1, she had some purpose and the conflict between her and Victoria had some foundation. Since Daniel was obviously Victoria's favorite and Conrad was more fond of Charlotte, the tension between Victoria and her daughter was not that odd. But after the revelation who her real father was and getting closer to Victoria, it seems just so odd that they are not that much closer. I get that Emily is constantly trying to punish Victoria by trying to alienate her children, mostly Daniel, from her.
Let the punishment fit the crime. Victoria took my mother away from me. It's time I took her daughter away from her.
But I never bought her and Nolan's explanation here that Victoria is only trying to protect Charlotte. Obviously the only protection Charlotte needs is from her father, so why are Victoria and Emily not more engaged in helping Charlotte? Another side plot that was constantly annoying this season was Padma's story. It just feels redundant that again the relationship of father and daughter is exploited here by the initiative. And we have way too little meaningful and romantic scenes between Nolan and Padma to really be invested and care for this relationship. What really annoyed me at the beginning was Emily's and Victoria's relationship. At first watch it was fun that Emily is trying to become friends with Victoria and seems to help her when she is in need.
I'm not sure I deserve this kindness from you.
I'm just so happy you're alive.
But in fact this was just a distraction, and Victoria is using Emily as well as Emily is using her to stay close to Charlotte. It might seem a good idea on paper to give Emily major roadblocks and making it harder for her to get near the Graysons when Victoria is closing ranks. But in fact it was only annoying how helpless Emily was at the beginning of season 2 and how much she lost focus. I know they had to delay her success if they wanted to keep going with the show. But especially in the second season it was annoying how little success Emily and her revenge getters had. The episode after this one, titled Confidence, is a very good example for all missed opportunities in season 2. First, how fast they killed off Gordon Murphy before we and Emily could get any meaningful answers.
And what did you do to her?
Unfortunately, that's something I'll never know.
Then the introduction of Kara Clarke and her ridiculous connection to Gordon Murphy as her lover. And of course Victoria's half-hearted press conference, which gave us zero new information.
This starts with the biggest admission of my life. Charlotte is the blessed consequence of my affair with David Clarke. This concludes the press conference. As this is an ongoing investigation, there will be no questions tonight.
But let's start with Aiden and killing off Gordon Murphy. For Aiden this was a cool hero moment and established his role as Emily's protector and trained assassin. Many hated all these gadgets and spy plot devices he brought into season 2. But you should not forget that Nolan was already fond of gadgets before in season 1. Remember whale cam? And since he was trained in the same fashion as Emily, why not shift the tone a little bit? I mean, both are obviously very skilled in deceiving and attacking people. And of course staying alive. Which is the one reason why Aiden had no other choice here but to take out Gordon.
Why?
He wanted you dead. I prefer you alive.
Sure, he did not have to kill him right away. I mean, he could have hurt him. And after the first shock, he and Emily could have tortured all information he had on Kara out of him. Then he could have killed him. Though as I said in my episode talks, it would have been far more interesting to have him stick around. Another great disappointment in this episode was the press conference, which should have been a great moment, was cut short and had zero impact on the plot. I mean, Victoria only told us things we already knew and tried to regain control. Unsuccessfully, since neither Emily nor Fomander or her children could be controlled by Victoria in season 2. And with Helen's phone call it was all too clear that even Conrad was not on board with his wife's plan to keep the initiative in check by threatening them. But the far greatest disappointment was the introduction of Kara Clarke. I must admit I was so thrilled finally meeting someone of Amanda's family and her mother of all people. But this sociopathic and mentally broken woman was just too much. First we had all these disturbing flashbacks how Amanda's life went down after the imprisonment of her father. And now we get to know that her mother has some really big mental health issues. I get that they had to find an explanation for the absence of her mother, but as I heard this the first time I really wished Kara would have stayed dead. I mean, how cool it would have been if she had to run away from the initiative because they tried to get rid of her as the only witness of David Clarke's innocence. If they had not killed off Gordon Murphy, he could have told Emily how he tried to protect Kara because she was the one who could have testified on David's behalf. That would have explained why she did not reach out to Amanda to protect her like her father tried. Instead of making her this weak and vulnerable character, she could have been strong and resourceful like she appeared to be when Aiden tried to trick her.
You made the mistake. Gordon would never have told anyone I was once Kara Clarke. Which means you're either working for the Graysons or you're working for the Initiative.
Most bad was also her exit from the show. Maybe they planned to bring her back, but since they did not, her story arc was just so pointless and fruitless.
Kara, is there anything that you want me to tell Amanda?
Just tell her I wish I could have been a better mother.
The only thing thrilling in this episode was Mason's return.
Thieves have been kind. Kara, where have you been?
Away.
Well, that's one of my favorite places.
And we get a pattern that will come back in season 3. When the writers run out of ideas, they bring old characters back who were fan favorites like Mason and Lydia in season 3. At least here it was not that unbelievable, since Mason might have been trying to interview Kara and could not find her. So he must have been thrilled as he heard she was back in the Hamptons. Though I must admit this scene with Emily, Fomander, Kara and Mason was more than odd. I still cannot put my head around what Roger Bart is trying to sell here. Maybe they wanted to leave all opportunities open in this episode. Anyway, it was very disappointing how fast this one went down. First with Fomander trying to kill Mason and ripping off the bandage by making Emily confess everything to him.
But you missed the one thing that's been right under your nose the whole time. She's not Amanda Clarke.
You are.
I mean, she did not have to tell him everything. He only found a piece of the puzzle and still could not see the whole picture. She could have come up with any story, he would surely have believed it. Even more disappointing was Kara's fake execution of T. Grayson's. Again they play around with an outcome that is most unlikely. Like Emily, they just cannot kill anyone of T. Grayson's until the great finale. So everyone of the audience was pretty sure that in the end their lives would be spared. Bringing Kara in danger, on the other hand, would have been a far greater and more thrilling outcome for this episode. I mean, she could have harmed herself and Emily had to find and save her life. He so dangerous initiative could have tried to kill her. I mean, even Conrad and Victoria could have conspired to kill her, since she is still the one who could collapse their house of cards. Anyway, it was a very anticlimactic exit for her given the importance of her character for Amanda. She is her mother, and besides one episode in season 3 we never hear from her again. Another very dull plot from season 2 was Daniel's war against Conrad.
I expected you to go at least a month before waving the white flag.
I'm here because I've heard rumors you stashed away a number of secret investments inside the company walls.
I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about.
That's how it's going to be, is it?
Oh, yeah, Daniel, this is pretty much exactly how it's going to be. You stole my company. If there's anything else you're after, you're just going to have to steal that, too.
They mirror this in the 3rd season, which was far more entertaining since they brought Margot and Pascal onto the battlefield.
Cut the crap, Dad. Only you would malign yourself just to screw me over.
I'm willing to drop my suit just as soon as you fire my son.
Yet in season 2 it was just annoying seeing Daniel follow his father's footsteps and becoming more and more evil. Not that I did not believe Daniel could be that ruthless. The storyline with Lee Moran and his reaction to Conrad's confession about the David Clarke conspiracy in season 1 showed us that Daniel was willing to do anything to protect the ones he loves, even if this means committing crimes and breaking the law. Hey, he even shot Tyler to protect Emily. He may not have killed him, but like he said himself, he was willing to do so.
This summer I shot my best friend.
I would have fired all 3 bullets if I had the chance.
In order to protect Emily and his family. What I am trying to say, they just did not convey his change in that organic way like they did in season 1 and 3. In season 1 surely his experiences in prison and with the trial changed Daniel and his view on the world and justice in general. Even more after he heard the truth about his parents and how they secured this way of life for their family.
I do what I need to do to protect the family. I always have.
Yet in this, Daniel has no real motivation to hate his father that much. I mean, stealing Charlotte's inheritance was despicable, but since Victoria was not really dead, there was no real crime here. And with her suicide attempt, it was clear that Charlotte needed professional care and help. And why is Daniel suddenly so eager to take over Grayson Global? Especially after knowing the truth behind the firm's history. Would it not have been far more plausible if Daniel wanted to leave the Hamptons and Grayson Global behind as soon as possible? Though it was fun seeing Conrad doing everything he can to derail his son. Season 3 with this ever-changing alliances between Conrad, Daniel and Pascal was far more fun. And it also had far more graver consequences. In this season it all feels like a game for people who think they are far more important than they really are. But what I really hate in this war between Conrad and Daniel is how they treat Ashley. Though they have some cute scenes, I was never rooting for them as a pair. Cause it is just too obvious that Emily and Daniel will get back together in this season. Even if it is just for the sake of teasing Victoria and to gain access again to Grayson Manor and Grayson Global. But making Ashley a prostitute again after showing us her backstory and blackmailing her as Conrad's concubine was just so humiliating. I wonder if they had written these storylines for Ashley Madueke if she was not black. I also did not enjoy all the fuss around baby Carl's christening. I mean, are Jack and Fomander even that much religious? Yeah, I liked all these Christian allusions in season 3 and the plot around Father Paul. And for Emily and Conrad it seems perfectly fitting. But Jack and a former stripper? Why should they care about a christening? I was torn with this one. Usually I like the flash-forward episodes. But this one from season 2 is my least favorite. It is not that bad because again we have the question who was killed. In season 1 we assumed Daniel, and this was also the original setup.
Daniel, baby, please.
Before they changed it and killed Tyler instead. Yet here I was never really convinced it could have been Jack. So not only after second watch this feels like a cheap trick again. Even more disappointing was the recast of Takeda. Hiroyuki Sanada was in the best way mysterious and abusive.
I would never lie to you.
Then you lie, even to yourself. I can do nothing more to help you.
He really made an impact in the scenes he had with Emily in Season 1. Kerry Hiroyuki Tagawa never felt that fitting 40 part. He seems just too old and not that much intriguing. Another thing I hate in retrospect is this cheap shot killing Victoria off and making her come back in the very next episode. How cool it would have been if they had the guts to stick with this choice. They could have really dealt with the loss of her than just giving us this half-hearted scenes with Daniel and Charlotte. And why dropping the bombshell this fast? Emily and Victoria did not have that much scenes in Season 1, so there was no need in rushing her return.
What did I miss?
In fact, it would have been more interesting to explore the conflicts that her death brought into the Grayson family. The only thing remotely thrilling was Aiden's introduction and the question about his past with Emily and Takeda. I had the same feeling with the second flashback episode. As I said in my episode talk of the first flashback episode, this one is one of my favorites. And it was the first episode one ever saw of Revenge. So this one is kind of my pilot episode. Anyway, the second time around it was not that much thrilling. Not only because besides Takeda and Aiden we have no connection to the David Clarke conspiracy again. Something the whole second season lacks of. While it was fun seeing how everyone changed in later years, we have a new time frame and the difference is not that huge this time. So instead of this angry teenage Amanda for which I hope to return in Season 2, at least in 1 or 2 flashbacks, we have a Takeda student who is ready to fly solo.
I was working on a strategy to turn their infidelity into my entree, that was before you gave me this diversion.
For me and sure for the rest of the audience, it would have been far more interesting to explore that time period in Emily's life before she became a student of Takeda. I mean, we have only this one flashback with Takeda beginning HSI trainings with angry teenager Amanda in Season 2. Why not explore how their relationship grew over the years? Especially since they established in Season 1 how he abuses her feelings and is pushing all the right buttons to make her go in one direction. With Aiden's discovery in mind, how this whole mission Takeda trained the two for was just for his own vengeance. It would have made more sense to show us how long this abuse had taken place. And how he manipulated Amanda for his own selfish purpose. Even worse, the whole backstory of this mission is filled with cliches and prejudices. Why did they have to make Ashley an escort lady? I mean, in Season 1 she always appeared so accomplished. Her whole character setup in Season 2 leaves a sour taste after this.
It's your first time, isn't it?
Friends need money.
There are other ways to make money.
Do you think I'd be doing this if I hadn't tried everything else?
Especially when Victoria sends her to go after one member of the board at Grayson Global and literally makes her a prostitute again. Then why did they had to make the villains Russians? I know sex traffic is a huge problem in Eastern Europe and most of the European prostitutes come from there. Especially the young ones.
The man that you're auditioning to meet is named Dmitry Blatov. He traffics in women. The younger the better. That's why they want you with no makeup. You want to end up another victim?
But is it not in the States a greater problem with girls from the South American border? Even though they tried hard to make this interesting, I really did not care about the Ryan brother subplot in this. I get it is bad what Jack's father and his friend did. But in comparison to the crimes of the Graysons and what is going on in the main plot with Aiden's sister, this is really harmless. Clarke-Porter should have gone straight to the police instead of backing up his friend here. I mean, he killed that man almost in self-defense. Okay, they play the race card here, and I get that he is afraid of the cops, but for me this story looks really forced just to keep the Porters clean. So that the vendetta of Nate Ryan looks even more pathetic and unjustified. They just should have dropped this whole storyline and concentrate on the relationship problems between Jack and Fomander. Is it not enough that Jack's family is turned upside down with him becoming a father?
Jack, once the baby comes, he's gonna need stability. Me too.
You're right.
I mean, Declan could have lashed out more and showed his worst behavior together with Charlotte.
What about Declan?
Yeah, what about me?
Who is way too stable after all she went through in the last season. And it would have been far more plausible given Emily's and Amanda's past in UV if Fomander was the one having trouble with the police. Like I said, I wished the whole Season 2 that they would bring back some flashbacks with Emily and Amanda in prison to show us how their special relationship changed from haters to friends. Why did the writers not explore this? Especially with Formunder's death in mind mid-season, exploring this complicated love triangle with all those different layers of emotion would have been way more fun. I mean, where went the sexual tension between both Amanda's and Formunder's needy character? That was an underlying subtext I really enjoyed in season 1. Even though Formunder truly fell in love with Jack and became pregnant, this goes all too smoothly. I mean, where have her feelings for Emily gone and this absurd obsession she developed over a decade? It is very unlikely that these strong emotions just vanished with her pregnancy. That would have made a far better conflict than loving the same guy as Emily does. Especially since Emily is in a relationship with Aiden, and though they have problems of their own, seems very happy with him. The only two things that worked for me in the last flashback episode we got were the transition at the end with Emily and Aiden finally back together.
If you would have told me 6 years ago that I'd be here, in this bed, with you, I would never have believed it. You fought for me when nobody else would.
And of course the Graysons and Victoria's trauma with her mother. I think this was the most interesting flashback of the whole season.
Well, that's not what you said the day you threw me out of the house.
I am not marrying you, Marion. That is not what this is.
You can't leave me. How are we gonna survive?
And nobody promised to take care of you, and plus the kid.
Well, it was because of Victoria. I can send her away.
Yeah, you would do that, wouldn't you?
Victoria, come here quickly. Come here. Come here. Take the gun. Aim for his chest. No, I can't. We'll tell the police that he attacked us. That you shot him to protect me. No jury will ever convict you. You'll be hailed as a hero. My God, Victoria, if you don't do this, they will take me away from you forever. You will be all alone. For God's sake, do as I say.
Because get an explanation how Victoria became that way. Since Daniel asked her in season 1, I wondered what was truly wrong with her.
What happened to you to make you feel so threatened all the time?
Cause her failed romance with David Clarke and held captive in this marriage with Conrad could not be all. There had to be a deeper reason why Victoria always assumes the worst in people. I mean, we see this in season 3 a lot. It is not only Emily she mistrusts. Besides Margot, she did not approve any of her children's partners. Now we have 2 episodes from the last season. I must admit I did not hate season 4 and many of the episodes made it to the messy middle. But these 2 were just so unfulfilling to watch. Especially the beginning of season 4 left us frustrated. Because after that big reveal David Clarke is alive, we all waited that Emily would reveal herself. At first it was fun seeing how everyone got their moment with David and formed a relationship with him. But episode after episode it became more annoying that Emily did not tell him.
So, when are you gonna tell him?
When he's ready.
Why wait?
I can understand why they choose this inner conflict, and it totally fits her character, and her final outburst was great.
If you had come for her, I would have known. I would have known! You could have come for me, but you didn't. You taught me to be strong and brave, but you're a coward. You could have come for me!
If you watched my episode talks, I have 2 major problems with season 4 as many fans of Revenge who sticked around till the end. First, that Charlotte still was around. When Daniel died in the last season, it really felt that they killed off the wrong Grayson sibling. In any season it would have had a great impact not only on Victoria and Conrad as her parents, but for Emily as well as her half-sister if something really bad would have happened to Charlotte. Yes, they had those big losers for Emily in season 2 and 3 with Formunder and Aiden. But they could have really raised the stakes in every season. Even in season 4. I mean, like Emily says in a later episode when she has to clean up after her, Charlotte could get herself easily killed with her reckless behavior.
It's time you own your bad choices. That could easily have been you lying there.
So it is no big surprise that the first bad episode of season 4 involves her and the repetitious storyline about her lashing out. Though this time I think they capture it good that she goes too far and finally understands what she has to do to get better. The other problem was of course the explanation for David's survival and why he did not contact his daughter Amanda.
Boss wants him alive. This guy's the mastermind behind Flight 197. Moved all that money around for the terrorists like David friggin' Copperfield.
Who do you work for?
Same as you now.
This was the greatest deception of the last season. And I must admit that this whole Malcolm Black plotline sometimes made me wish they did not bring David back at all. Even though I loved his scenes with Amanda and all those conflicts for Emily, Nolan and Jack, his return stirred up. The beginning of this season was that good because all was taken upside down. But Malcolm Black was a terrible villain. No offense for the actor who portrays him. I am sure he is a fine actor. But his performance did not quite fit to the tone of the show. And though we had some cool locations and the big fighting scene was fun, these 2 episodes were just too cramped. And David's intervention after Daniel's death and Kate was shot just made me so angry. He backs everyone into their corner, including Jack, who is the only police officer here and by the way saved the day. Hello, where is a thank you here from David for saving his only daughter. Before and after this he relentlessly tells us how dangerous and ruthless Malcolm is and that he is bigger, more bad and more influential than Conrad.
See what this man's capable of? Years ago his nephew was in a car accident. He's crippled. A week later the drunk driver disappeared, along with his wife, his parents, his children and his brother. The bodies were found in a hunting shack. They've been tortured for 6 weeks.
So he gives us this enormous over-the-top expectations for this villain. So Malcolm had to disappointment us. A bit like the show and Amanda did with David. For 3 seasons we have seen him in flashbacks and heard from Emily what a perfect dad he was.
Sounded like a great dad.
He was the best.
Long story short, Malcolm had no real chance to become a great villain. Even though his first entrance was not that bad with killing off the chief of Hampton Police. Though it is shocking and a bit of a running gag how bad this police station really is. I mean, Ben Hunter, who is really not the smartest cop, mails it detective and is more suspicious about his ex-girlfriend who just tries to get her life back on track for her father. Then the woman who lost everything including her fortune, multiple loves of her life and her son. I mean, who has a motive here to get revenge for all she has lost and blames one sole person for this from the start. Come on Ben, that is not so hard to answer. And no offense to Jack Porter and his sense for duty, but he really was no good cop either. I mean, he lets Charlotte off the hook instead of teaching her a lesson. Although he knows how reckless she is right now. I mean, she kidnapped his son.
What the hell? You don't talk to me for 6 months and then out of the blue you pick him up from daycare? You know what that was like for me? Not knowing where he is, not being able to find him?
And hours later we have this. So yeah, this episode really sucked. I gave the first episode a place in the messy middle because I like how they show us how everything is off balance and new in the opening of season 4. And I loved that they brought the prologue back with the twist Victoria speaking it.
In my lifetime, I've come to understand that there are 3 ways for a person to disappear. The first is to die, the second is to lie, and the last is to be reborn.
This really set the tone for what was to come by the end of the season.
I made my peace with those who have wronged me, and with those who I've wronged. No one more so than Emily Thorne.
But the episode after they destroyed it with abandoning this nice pattern and just jumping right back into the frenzy. And again they betray us with this scene. Making it a dream turning into a nightmare. By the way, something they used a bit too often to make it that thrilling anymore. In season 1 it was fun with Emily's fear getting discovered by Victoria.
Amanda Clarke. How long did you really think you could fool me?
That was something we could relate to and reminded us how dangerous Emily's mission is, since at the beginning there were not that much action and deaths going around. In season 2 they found a nice twist for making us aware of the love triangle like I mentioned earlier. And in season 3 we got Conrad's nightmare, which was a cheap trick considering that Charlotte never tried to kill Conrad, even though he was the one who killed her actual father and was responsible for the death of her sister and her boyfriend and father of her child. So his fear was real. The problem with this dream is that Victoria's fear might be real, but David's behavior is not. In fact, it is frustrating how much he trusts. And in contrast to all the other dreams, this is the one we wish it would come true. Since, as I said before, we never get that kind of face-off. And I cannot tell you how much I hated the David and Victoria subplot in these first couple of episodes. I mean, I get that he wants answers and gives her the benefit of a doubt. He is clearly still in love with her. But that conversation here in the dream sequence is far more adequate and real than every conversation they wrote for James Tupper and Madeline Stowe in the final season. I mean, how delusional David can be. I ranted on about this in my episode Talks Enough, but he behaves like a teenager with his first crush. Why is he not asking the right questions? I get he is trying to establish his alibi for Conrad's murder here. But in the next scene he admits killing him, quite frankly.
I've done some unspeakable things of my own. I killed Conrad.
So why telling this lie in the first place and giving Victoria and us the audience this big show in the first place? We know he did kill Conrad, we saw it. I just do not get their love story, and for me this whole storyline was just pointless and so dull. Even the new flashbacks were not that much thrilling. Instead of telling us something about Victoria's views on becoming Amanda's stepmother and what kind of future he planned for them, we get to see that he was a criminal after all. He not only stole his employer's wife but his money. What the fuck? I mean, first they build up his reputation and Emily finally cleansed his name from this terrorist accusations. And now we get to know that he was a fraud like all the other men of Victoria. Okay, this means she obviously has a type and clears the conflict I always had why she was falling in love with such a boring good guy like David. Turns out he was not that boring and not that good after all. Or should this flashback show us how Victoria's influence rubbed off on him? Enough of that, back to Charlotte, who is the focus of this episode. By the way, that was the only elegant twist in this episode. How they combined all these little scenes in which Emily is seeing first Daniel and then Charlotte again, while in fact she is tracking down Victoria.
Well, I heard your mother's back in town.
Well, you heard wrong.
I get that Charlotte lashes out here and is in a very bad place. This breakdown was long coming after she was that awkwardly aware of herself in season 2 and 3. Besides blaming Emily and her parents, she really held herself together after Declan's death and her miscarriage. I assume she went back seeing a therapist and Jack helped as well. Maybe even her fling with Javier. Anyway, in season 3 she seemed for the first time grown up and stood up for herself. By the way, the reason why I really loved her in that scene, Conrad confessed to her all his crimes. No doubt this was her best scene from the whole show.
Can you look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong? If you don't have the guts to admit what you did to my real father, I'll tell the police.
No, and you're not going anywhere.
You have no power over me.
Yet these two encounters with Emily here and her second suicide attempt not only showed her weak again, it reminded us again what is wrong with this character. We see no progress. Everyone changed during the course of the show. Even Victoria and Conrad had some changes in their behavior. But Charlotte stays the same, like frozen in time. She blames other people for her misery. Mostly her parents, and in the later seasons Emily as well. And what gets me every time I watch this scene, how melodramatic this is. The intercuts between her and the ground below. These stupid flowing pink dress and the black boots with high heels. Really the worst outfit for a suicide attempt that easily just could have gone wrong by stumbling over her shoes or the hemline. I get that they try to establish how life went down for the Graysons and that both Grayson siblings are casualties in Emily's war with the Graysons. And I believe they managed pretty well in this episode to show us how Daniel's life went downhill.
Rumor is you've been selling anything that's not nailed down so you can keep pretending your fortune didn't sink along with your family's.
We agreed to a lot more than this.
Supply and demand, Grayson. And your name doesn't intimidate people the way it used to, so why don't you just hand me the keys?
But if you compare the storylines of both Grayson children, you get pretty quick what is wrong with Charlotte's storyline in season 4. While Daniel gets this whole redemption arc and even gets his reconciliation with Emily before he dies, Charlotte is in some kind the same spoiled and ungrateful girl from the beginning. Sorry Charlie, but in this Conrad was right.
And you, my dear, are an ungrateful bastard.
She has no character development, and it seems besides being disappointed and angry, of course, the big revelation of Emily being her sister has no greater influence on her. Again, the writers react like in season 1. They drop this bombshell and do not care that much about it afterwards. I mean, where is the big sister talk Emily hoped to have with her?
Oh no. Now you don't think that you can talk to her, do you? Rehabilitate her, have an Oprah moment? That plan is worse. It won't work.
I don't know that.
We waited till the finale to see something like this. Especially because Charlotte was Emily's bridesmaid again. So there was a reconciliation, right? Anyway, instead of putting herself in the shoes of others like Jack, Emily, or even her mother, she puts the blame on everyone. Jack is responsible for her PTSD after the abduction, and even after Emily says she was responsible, there is no apology for Jack. And after knowing the truth, she goes back to her mother, blaming Emily for everything. It is like in season 1 and 2 when Conrad and Victoria fought and she went back and forth between them, playing one against the other during the divorce. Now she does this with Emily and Victoria, even though she knows better by now. What is even worse, she is no help either for her brother. I mean, Conrad is dead, and after the scandal around his arrest and their mother's disappearance, the two siblings should help and support each other. Yet in this scene it seems Daniel is the only one supportive here. I mean, how sweet and responsible it is from him to care for his little sister in this situation. Despite what Emily claims in this episode and before so many times, she was and is no big help for Charlotte. I mean, was there really no way she could help her out with money without knowing it comes from here?
Then where were you before now? I've been trying. I'll try harder.
And what really destroys her character again is that Charlotte uses the money to party with her new boyfriend Gideon. It is like with her douchebag boyfriend and dealer from season 1 all over again. How can she still not have a better insight into human nature after all she has been through and after all she knows about her parents and their crimes? And while Daniel really tries to get back on track with Margot's help, Charlotte just goes deeper and deeper down and spiraling out of control. If you compare Daniel's scenes and reactions towards Emily in this episode and Charlotte's really too dramatic suicide and murder attempt, you see the problems I have with her character and how her storyline is played out here. From season 1, Charlotte is merely a plot device. I think her first choice was the one she makes a few episodes later when she is leaving Victoria and her war with Emily behind to get to rehab again.
I'm sick of being caught between you and Emily and your cycle of hate. I want out.
Anyway, Daniel's reaction towards his ex-wife being back in the Hamptons is far more mature and easygoing.
I suggest you follow her lead and disappear.
Especially if you compare what she did to him. Remember, she faked a pregnancy to make him marry her just for the sake of her revenge ender. And when her plan failed, she made his girlfriend break up with him and stole again the chance of a real and happy relationship from him. What did she do to Charlotte that was this bad?
You used me and lied to me.
Charlotte.
Do you hear yourself? You chose revenge over me, and you can't take it back.
Yeah, she used her for most of the time to hurt Victoria like Victoria does with David in this season. Yet she also tried to get her away from the unhealthy influence of her parents whenever she could. And in season 2 she even gave up the opportunity to be a bigger sister and passed it on to Fomander to form a bond between them. She surely thought after Charlotte's rehab, becoming an aunt and getting to know her sister would stabilize her. She could not know that Fomander would die soon, and surely did not intend to make Charlotte suffer that hard, losing her newfound sister so soon. Yes, Charlotte's accusations are true. Emily was never that much around to help her, and after the finale obviously never reached out to her sister. Yet with Aidan killed by Victoria and being responsible for the downfall of the Grayson family, she was certainly not in the mood for explaining herself to Charlotte. And like she is delaying to tell her father the truth later, I think Emily really thinks she does not deserve to be happy and to put the burden of her true identity to anyone else. She has seen in season 3 how bad this went down with Jack.
And who you're turning me into. You are so selfish. You use everyone who cares about you.
I lost Amanda too.
You've taken everything from me.
So in my opinion, she is truly afraid how Charlotte would react. So she is doing this because she thinks she has no other option left. And Charlotte's reaction proved her biggest fears to be right. One last point, though I like this scene for itself and the song choice, this was a terrible ending for the episode. They go way too much with the melodrama here. I mean, yeah, it was a great twist that Charlotte lured Emily in Jack's bar just to kill her. In true sociopathic fashion, she could have hurt both Jack because he is losing his bar and one true love in one night. And she had her ultimate revenge by killing Emily. Yet this is the problem here. Because it is so out of character and out of proportion. I mean, we talk about her sister and the one person who tried to help her. While her brother Daniel obviously was finally fed up with her problems, and her mother did not care enough to show herself. By the way, it speaks again volumes that Victoria first goes to her golden boy Daniel, and he is the one who has to tell her to look for Charlotte. Hello, she is the younger and troubled child with a history of drug abuse and a failed suicide attempt. Come on which child you would check first? I get what they try to accomplish here, cause Victoria already tried to kill Emily with David's help. But especially if they plan to repair the sisters' relationship and redeem Charlotte in the end, this was just the dumbest move. Everything would have been better than this over-the-top murder attempt. They could have argued and Charlotte could have hit her. Whatever. On my behalf so hard that Emily lost conscious and Charlotte left totally freaked out. Or Emily could have lost her temper. 'Cause frankly she really is too chilled and calm at the beginning of this season. Almost as if she was paralyzed by her grief and the loss of Aiden. Anyway, this could have been a big emotional scene in which every of the two women throwed all the pent-up tension out. And complained about their worst behaviors and failures. Charlotte would of course go for the fake pregnancy, marriage and the identity lie. Ending Emily ruined her life. Emily would have retaliate with the crimes of her parents and how bad her life was growing up while Charlotte was in this palace of Grayson Manor and her parents fulfilled her every wish and shielded her from harm, something I bet she envies and defies Charlotte in secret for. And if Charlotte would have whined about her abduction or how traumatic it was knowing to be David Clarke's daughter, Emily would finally lose it and hit her in the face. Close up to Charlotte's red face from anger and the slap. Running away. They even could have cut to the scene from season 1 with Victoria hitting her and Conrad abusing her. Like they did with Victoria when Margot spoke for her after Emily's interview and they showed us scenes in which Victoria was suffering from her mother, Conrad and Emily. That would have made the scene much more dramatic and we would still have a cliffhanger. Not such a dramatic one like this. But come on, we all knew Emily would have been saved and Jack saving her was a little cheesy, don't you think? The next 2 episodes were no doubt the worst story-wise. It gets points for location and the big fighting scene that involved nearly everyone of the cast and showed us one last time how skilled Emily still is when her life is at stake. And of course I loved the twist that Emily and Victoria were actually working together despite showing the natural contempt we love so much in this relationship. But let's move right into the bad. I already spoke about the bad choice for Malcolm Black as the big villain for this season. I know they had to delay the endgame between Emily and Victoria. But his daughter Kate, who was killed off too soon for my taste, would have made a far better villain. I mean, look at her backstory, which is such a mirror of Emily. She infiltrated the FBI as a mole like Emily did with the Graysons. She targeted Jack to get close to David Clarke and Emily after she found out about her true identity. Like Emily used Daniel to get close to Victoria and Charlotte. And Courtney Ford gave just such an intriguing performance. By the way, if they really wanted to get more soapy here, they could have waltzed out Emily's jealousy again. I mean, she still loves Jack even though she is the last one to admit it. And while she is still coming back from the loss of Aiden and slowly customizing the thought of a future as Amanda again, Jack has a new gorgeous girlfriend who happens to be his colleague. It is like she was in Jack's situation from season 3 when he learned about Emily and Aiden being back together and leaving the Hamptons after her revenge ender was over.
You'll never have to see Aiden again.
He's leaving with Emily? I didn't even know they were together.
Anyway, this fight between Emily and Kate was far more thrilling than all the scenes between David and Malcolm. Not only because the actors were younger and women. This phone duel between the two and the over-the-top little torture scene just felt so wrong and anticlimactic. They are even polite on the phone and do not exchange any insults. Surely again due to Disney. I mean, which villain speaks so posh?
So this better be a courtesy call telling me that you found your phone. You're way out your league, boy.
And this accent. I am German and saw Revenge on German TV with the synchronization. So when I first heard Malcolm's original voice, I really was shocked.
Good catch. It's always the little things that get ya.
But let's start with the abduction scene. 'Cause this was also bad. First of all, I hate David's poetic idea how he wants to kill Victoria and end her suffering.
I'm meeting her tonight at the lighthouse in Montauk. They'll rule it a suicide.
A grieving mother jumps to her death.
I'm not inhuman. Seeing her mourn Daniel gave me pause.
My reaction was the same as Emily's, though these thoughts are really dark and messed up, but very fitting for her as well.
That doesn't erase what she's done.
Killing her would. Death for Victoria would be merciful. She has nothing left. Now is the time to let her suffer.
And I hate that they ruin the symbolism of the beach here for me and the whole show. How many scenes we had seen with flashbacks of happy Amanda and David at the beach. And now Victoria is telling us that the beach and light tower was their meeting spot. I mean, in retrospect, I like this parallel cause Emily and Aiden used the same spot in season 3 for their affair. But at the same time, it is just annoying how they try to make us invest in this AK Ward and gross love story. Even more, I was disappointed by Emily showing up. After his failed attempt to poison Victoria, I really thought we would get to see a tense fight between the two former lovers. By the way, after that big reveal in the final episode, one missed this last confrontation as well. I know the end of the season was about the war between Victoria and Emily and their quote Daniel sick relationship. But if you think about David's cancer and how from the beginning Victoria tried to keep him away from his daughter, he really has enough reasons to hate and kill Victoria. I know many think David stole Emily's thunder in this last season. But the whole premise of season 4 was that her revenge agenda is over and she has to adjust to her new life. Even more with her father being alive and everyone who counts knowing her true identity. Sorry, Ben. And with Malcolm Black and Victoria being a threat for his family, it is only fair that David tries to make it right by protecting his daughter now he can. Yet the big problem here is he cannot, and he fails her big time again. First of all by not finding out sooner that she is missing. I mean, Nolan would have slipped his new invented tracker down her throat if he was aware of the real danger she was still in. By the way, another thing I hate about the setup in these couple of episodes. While David and Jack are working together to save Emily, Nolan is unaware of all this and occupied with Louise's problems. We will get to that later when we talk about the previous episode called Madness. As much as I enjoyed seeing Nick Wexler and James Tupper having some scenes together, especially with him being Emily's hopefully last husband, I hated that Nolan was not part of the gang. Instead they involved Ben Hunter, who still was up for becoming Emily's next love interest. Seriously, after all that? How big must this crush on Emily be if he wants to be involved in this madness regularly? Or is it the thrill? I mean, he became a police officer, so he must at some point be an adrenaline junkie. Anyway, this scene at the end felt like a car accident. You do not want to watch, but you cannot take your eyes off, and you know what will happen in the end. And that there will be no happy end for this guy. Back to Malcolm. I still do not understand how both enemies planned their revenge. It is like Malcolm says himself.
Is this really how you want to play it? You're way out of your league, boy.
And since Malcolm is not the better either, David looks twice as stupid. Every time I watch this, knowing Kate lies dead in the trunk, I wish she would have been in a coma or something and would wake up just right in time to shake up this really stupid and dull encounter. I mean, what did David expect here? He could not play this charade forever, so what was his plan B?
How stupid do you think I am?
Another bad choice of him. Unlike Emily, who always had a plan B, C and probably plan D and so on. David not even had a second plan if the first one failed. The only thing I enjoyed as most of the audience was that Malcolm got the fate he prepared for David and his daughter. He had to find out his daughter died and was killed like gutter in an incinerator. Nice touch though, reminding us of Aiden's involuntary sleepover in the trash car. And of course David being the one who saves her. Though Jack would have been my choice even though he saved her before. Now to Louise and her family. I must admit that my feelings are mixed here. 'Cause I like her backstory and the drama around the death of her father. Yet I do not like that she is blamed and stigmatized in this way. But if you see it from the end with her being rehabilitated by Nolan and Emily, it is not so bad. But this episode and the dinner with her brother was just a disaster. They do the one thing her family wants, proving her mental instability and showing off her madness in public for everyone to see. I mean, how humiliating was this scene for Louise? And how frightened Nolan must be of her after this.
Sorry.
The only thing good that came from here was that Emily could confront Victoria about her involvement in Daniel's murder, and it gave Nolan in the end the opportunity to save Louise from her family. But that is also the problem I have with these two episodes. There is just too much going on. The writers make the same mistake they did so many times in season 2. By the way, the main reason why so many episodes from this season landed on this bad episode list. They cramped the episodes full with unnecessary side plots. Every time the Malcolm Black storyline was getting remotely suspenseful, they cut to Nolan and Louise. I really loved those two in season 4, but not so much that I was not annoyed by this. Even more as there was a big imbalance here concerning the seriousness of conflicts and problems. With David and Emily, there were lives at stake, and a sociopathic, very dangerous criminal was on the loose. On the other hand, we had financial issues and an intrusive family. In the next episode, even Emily makes fun of it, and her first joke at Nolan's cost.
You miss some things when you get kidnapped by a sociopath.
You know, there are some people who say the exact same thing happened to you.
It harmed the structure so much that the episodes almost felt like a sequence of short stories that are only remotely connected throughout the characters. Now back to season 2. Another great disappointment was Kara Clarke, Amanda's mother. Bringing her back was a thrilling idea and in retrospect a foreshadow of what they would do with David. It also gave the writers the opportunity to explore Amanda's childhood a bit more and give us new flashbacks. Yet they did it all wrong. Like they screwed up the explanation why David did not contact Amanda all these years in the last season. They did the same with her mother. I assume they thought this a very cool and big reveal for Emily and the audience. And in that episode it surely was. But after the first watch it was just too much disappointing how the potential of this story arc was wasted for this lame plot twist. By the way, another problem of season 2. We really had no big, surprising or even remotely original plot twist like in season 1. It really felt a K-Ward how the quality writing of the first season went down from episode to episode. The only thing I enjoyed this season, and especially in this episode, how Emily's and Aiden's relationship progressed and they became lovers again. The chemistry between Emily Van Camp and Barry Sloane is still just so great. But back to the main story arc with Amanda's mother. They had tons of opportunities to go down with Kara Clarke's past, and I think they chose the worst path by making her mentally unstable. First of all, this overshadows Emily's mental health issues as well. Even though her past and the treatment of Michelle Banks are enough reason for her trauma and trust issues. Second, they were too tame with this. I mean, why not go full in and make her behavior even more unpredictable? Besides her last outburst and trying to execute the Graysons, she seems just too calm for a dangerous woman with a bipolar personality disorder. We have seen in the season before what happens when these people are off their meds with Tyler. Sure, this is a cliché and it was redundant using this again as a threat for Emily's revenge agenda. But they chose this, so why not give Emily real problems with her and making her job harder by having to protect the Graysons, including Daniel, Aiden and Formunder's family. Aiden was the one who lied to Kara and killed her paramour. Besides the empty threats Emily is throwing in his direction, we see no real actions of Kara. She barely has one new scene with Aiden after she left him for dead in that motel. And that threat for baby Carl they try to establish in order to have a reason to get rid of Kara as soon as possible is gone as fast as it came. I mean, she even gets to hold the baby on several occasions and is welcomed by Jack as the kid's grandmother. I mean, why is he not suspicious by her sudden appearance and disappearance after a few days? He never asks about an explanation from Formunder or even Emily. And letting her mother go without further investigation or help seems just so out of character for Emily as well. I get that Formunder is not that much of a family person here. I mean, Kara is a total stranger for her and a threat for her baby for all she knows. And given her special relationship with Emily, she might see Kara like Nolan in season 1 as a competitor for Emily's affection. But after trying so hard to find out what happened to her mother and getting to see her, why does Emily not dig deeper? You can argue that she is in shock over her mother's mental issues and secretly asking herself how much unhealthy patterns she has inherited from her. Yet seeing that scene again when she uncovers that traumatic memory of her mother trying to drown her, I wonder why she is not confronting Kara about it. Emily could have easily done it as Amanda's friend and find an excuse like she wants to protect her friend and her family. Make sure that everything is and stays okay for them. And the writers could also have taken the risk that in a heated moment she reveals herself to her mother. Either way, to put Formunder and baby Carl out of harm's way if Kara had acted out. That sure would have been a great distraction. And a pattern they used later to save Jack from ruining his life by shooting Conrad. To cut a long story short, this episode, and especially the big flashback reveal, was just pointless. They really lost an opportunity here to establish a real cool conflict and relationship that could have lasted the whole season instead of a few episodes. Much more so with the episode after this. Especially having in mind that it contains my favorite scene with Kara Clarke, and a far better flashback hat could have easily given the whole backstory another shift. So let's begin with the good things that worked in this episode. For instance, having Mason back and bringing back the issue of Emily's and Amanda's identity swap.
You may be many things to many people, but the daughter of Kara Wallace and David Clarke, that is one thing that you most definitely are not.
And of course, Formunder's problems with Kara and her bad cautious. Everything they did wrong in the last season with her trying to steal Jack away from Emily and her sick logic to form a closer relationship with Emily by hooking up with her childhood crush. They make up for in this. Finally, Formunder reflects on what she stole from Emily and what Emily is sacrificing for her revenge agenda. Acknowledging not only Emily's regret and pain over this, but how wrong this all feels.
I knew you had feelings for Jack when I tricked him into believing I was you. And now I have this incredible family. It's not fair. You deserve better. And
so this scene with Emily, Fomander and Kara gives us all we have to know about this very complicated relationship. Though it would have been more fulfilling if they had changed the storyline just a bit. I mean, would it have hurt if David and Kara just had decided that their relationship did not work? Without all the drama of her mental disorder. There are women that leave their kid with their father without having another excuse than just not wanting to be a full-time parent anymore. I know such a mother from my circle of acquaintances. Sure, it would have been far less dramatic, but that is the difference between melodrama and life. Why choose the most unrealistic and dramatic explanation here? Amanda has enough trauma from the flashbacks in season 1. And even though I get that instinct for a plot twist here. By the way, it was a real cool idea giving us the happy memories first before unlocking the bad ones and turning everything Amanda just remembered upside down. Not that bad. But story-wise it was just lame making again the mother the big bad here. As I said in my character study, Revenge has a tendency to demonize mothers and women. They do it with Victoria's mother in this season, and they did it with Victoria herself on numerous occasions. By the way, another thing I still cannot accept story-wise. Why is Kara on the one hand so hostile towards the Graysons, and Victoria for good reasons no doubt, but still so calm and using their hospitality? Is this some passive-aggressive way to make them pay without even recognizing it? I guess since she has this personality disorder, Kara cannot act planful like Emily, and she is clearly not in her right mind, talking clearly. But that is the whole problem here. If they had dropped this mental health issues, which is just a cheap imitation of Tyler and Fomander from season 1, Kara could have sticked around for more than just a handful episodes. She even could have become an ally for Emily and helped protect Fomander and her family with Jack. She still could have left in season 2. Fomander's death would have given a perfect excuse and opportunity to make her want to leave the Hamptons and the Graysons behind after losing both of her men and her only daughter because of them. This would have opened up a great playing field for several conflicts. Fomander's bad conscience and doubts on keeping up the charade as Amanda Clarke. And with Emily they could have played out something they explored at the beginning of season 4 with David. The one problem she never anticipated before she got to know Charlotte is her sister. She has to lie to her family as well in order to protect her revenge ender and guard her biggest secret. Plus the constant conflict Victoria must feel looking at Kara Clarke. 'Cause she destroyed her life twice by stealing her husband and making the life of her daughter hell. I cannot begin to imagine how cool season 2 could have been with such a fine actress as Jennifer Jason Leigh playing around with Emily Van Camp and Madeline Stowe. Anyway, another fruitless side plot I forgot, Padma. Even though I kind of liked her awkward romantic scenes with Nolan. They could have gone even more nerdy here if they had not brought Nolan's ex-lover and business partner in. But that is another story. But I really hated the ruse they made us believe Padma was one of the initiative. The writer's instinct were right using our suspicion about the new character who is slightly a bit too much interested in Nolan. But why making her a victim of blackmail? It just seems so redundant, again a doting daughter who tries desperately to save her father. It would have been far cooler and more revenge style if she was actually a badass and worked for the initiative. They could have sent her to stalk Aiden and find out everything she can about him and Emily. Helen could have become suspicious about their connection and her friendship with Fomander. I mean, even Mason is starting to ask questions about this unusual friendship. And unlike him, Helen knows about Aiden's connection to the David Clarke conspiracy. With Padma's help, Helen could have even uncovered Emily's secret. Either blackmailing her with the threat telling the Graysons about her or getting neutralized by Aiden in order to save Emily and her mission. If they had kept Gordon Murphy alive with the knowledge about Emily's true identity, he could have helped Aiden saving the daughter of his paramour. He even could have switched teams again and helped both taking down the initiative. Instead of trying to find out what their plans are and how they are connected to the Graysons in this whole season. This could have been a shortened story arc for a couple episodes. And after getting rid of them for good, the writers could have concentrated on the plot and themes that were really important. Like taking down the Graysons and their conspirators. Though season 3 is one of my favorite seasons of Revenge. Especially the beginning with Father Paul. 3 episodes has made it onto the list of bad episodes. First, the aftermath of Conrad's accident and the death of Father Paul. And then the episode that explains Emily's blackouts after she had been shot. Let's begin with Father Paul. He was one of my favorite targets from the whole show, and surely a special one, since after Mason he is the only one who shows true remorse and even turned his life around after leaving Grayson Global. So I was very much disappointed when they killed him off that fast, even though that set some wheels in motion to bring the story forward. Yet with Conrad getting away that easily from suspicion and having him go back to his old ways after getting to know he is not deathly ill.
Is reclaiming my rightful position as master of this house.
This whole plot arch seems a total waste of time and energy. Not that Revenge does not love to do this, and I like that about the show. But in this particular case I did not enjoy it that much. Even more, as a good person was thrown under the bus twice. First by Emily and literally by Conrad and Daniel. Just despicable how he talks about the solution for this problem. Though I like the episode title and prologue for this one, Control.
When on a mission of revenge, one must maintain total control. The single greatest threat to success is losing control of your allies.
Could have been used in Season 1 at several occasions, especially in regards to Fomanda and her erratic behavior. Yet it was not that funny to see Aiden and Jack going rogue and everyone arguing with Emily in this episode. It is like everyone finally is trying to catch up with Emily after all she has done. Aiden because she is using him and giving not that much back at the beginning of Season 3. Which is not alone her fault because he totally blocks her romantic approaches. Then Daniel, who finally seems to see through her facade and is asking the right questions about their relationship.
Really? Because lately I've been feeling like I'm just playing a role in a story you're writing.
So I can relate to the problems and accusations of both men. Yet Jack I cannot understand. In Season 3, after knowing her true identity and what she had to sacrifice, he still is angry with Emily and loads all his frustration and pain onto Emily. Yes, she can handle it, but that does not mean it is okay to keep treating her like this. She opened up to him as best as she could and really tries to minimize the fallout for Jack on every step of the way in Season 3. It is him who undermines her in this almost every time.
I don't want you involved, Jack. This is my fight, not yours.
Would you just let me help?
No! Look, you were right. We're finally getting back to a good place. I honored what you asked me before. I need you to do the same. Just stay out of it, please.
And I hate his double standard here. Nolan betrayed him in the same fashion and from the beginning. Yet he is forgiven in no time. Another thing, Charlotte and Conrad. I get they needed a break here, especially with the finale in mind. She had to become more aware of her parents' crimes, and isolating her from Victoria and Conrad by making her hate both for a change was not a bad decision. But why not use this conflict? In this scene they show us the impact on Conrad having Charlotte turned against him, but we have no real progress here. Charlotte goes from adoring her father to hating him in no time. And why is he that rude to Emily? Only because she is sticking with Conrad and taking care of a dying man who happens to become her father-in-law. Why is he not asking herself what Emily has to gain here besides pissing off Victoria, of course. And I know they had to find a way bringing Sarah and Daniel back together. Even though I hated the Trouble I Paradise theme here, it was one of the coolest ideas for Emily and Daniel bringing his ex-girlfriend back before the wedding. Not only because she was his girlfriend before Emily, and in Season 1 he went to see her and Emily encouraged him to make amends with Sarah.
You should go talk to her. Tell her what you're telling me now.
It made us see what this sick plan of Emily cost Daniel. He could have been happy with another girl if she had not chosen him as her petsy to get close to the Graysons. And with Charlotte being her half-sister and her close friendship with Conrad, she had enough opportunities to pursue another angle. Anyway, what I still not understand is Charlotte's determination to break Emily and Daniel up. In Season 1 and 2 she was so excited having Emily as her sister-in-law.
Did Daniel propose? You have no idea how badly I've always wanted a sister.
That flies all out of the window because of one little lie of Emily. Which was not even the greatest one considering her biggest secret and the pregnancy lie. In Season 4 she has far better reasons to hate Emily and hold more than a grudge for her. In retrospect this just looks redundant and unnecessary. Especially after the opera evening and Emily taking her vendetta with Charlotte's mother out in the open. Another ruse I could not enjoy was the disposal of Grayson Manor and the whole money problems theme. In Season 4 they also failed to fully address the drastic change from being one of the wealthiest family in America to having nothing. I get that this is not the right theme for the show. But they did not even try to make us believe they have real money issues. Like Conrad says, it looks as if the Grayson motto is,
Money comes, money goes.
Finally, the last bad episode, and I was tempted to put this one in the not so bad category. Cause many hated this soap opera cliches of memory loss and mental health issues that explain erratic behavior away and gives the writers something like a carte blanche. Yet in fact I found it an interesting choice, making Emily this weak and vulnerable at least for a couple of episodes. I mean, after all she has been through in her past and during the first years of her vendetta. Is it not plausible that her body and mind finally sending her signals that they need a break? All the stress and inner conflict she has to endure, let alone because she is hiding her true identity constantly even before people she cares about. I mean, how often she must have thought about telling Charlotte and Daniel the truth and making them join her revenge team. The reason for choosing Struggle as the last episode for my bad episode list was in fact the really underscored explanation for her blackouts. They could have really gone for authenticity here, especially with all the hospital and doctor scenes and Kara Clarke's mental health issues. Nolan even hints into that direction, and it would have been plausible if the trauma of getting shot by her husband had triggered something. Like her psychopathic tendencies, this would have been something Emily has to live with and keep in check for the rest of her life. Revenge had far more bad plot holes than this one. But making Aiden thrust waterboarding on her in the vague hope of triggering some memory like she tried in season 2 with the memories of her mother was just beyond crazy and ridiculous. I mean, if he was not cautious enough he could have killed her. Let alone the re-traumatizing that is going on here, since her mother tried to drown her and she almost drowned after Daniel shot her. Even worse, is the memory that should explain it all. No offense, I was thrilled getting a new David Clarke flashback, and expanding the crucial flashback from season 1 was no bad idea. But choosing this one to explain her blackouts today definitely was. I mean, why should this incident that was not as dramatic and traumatic as what little Amanda had to endure after her father was imprisoned have such an impact on adult Amanda? Yes, at the time this surely had been a great issue for little Amanda, seeing his father with another woman and hearing what he has planned for them. But despite what they make us believe, this comes not out of nowhere. Amanda had seen David and Victoria kissing several times during flashbacks in season 1. In that tape Nolan and Jack watched, she even uses this knowledge to help her father by telling Mason he should find Victoria. The girl clearly thinks she could help her father and does not have any suspicions. Okay, that contradicts what she had seen before, Victoria stealing her father's laptop. Yet I guess only grown-up Amanda could have put 2 and 2 together and later revisited this memory and making the right assumptions. Little Amanda maybe even not felt betrayed after Victoria's testimony in the trial. Cause she believed the lies on some point and thought Victoria to be a victim of the lies of her father David as well. Anyway, they totally mess up the timeline here and give little Amanda suspicions she only could have had by understanding everything that was going on the background. Which is just not possible for 8 or 9-year-old child. Given she has problems with Victoria replacing her mother and mistrusting her cause, she is the first new woman in his father's life, disrupting the dynamic. But why in the world should this be an issue now after 2 years trying to clear her father's name and making Victoria's life hell for what she had done to her and her father? And if they really wanted to establish reasonable doubt for her mission, why not establish this sooner and deal with it in several episodes? I mean, this comes and goes on a whim. In the next episode she is back on track, and another one later even has a new target. So what the fuck? As much as I enjoyed her blackouts, this explanation really sucked, and I still think it was unnecessary. They could have easily found a totally fine medical explanation without all that extra psychological baggage. So that were my 15 bad episodes. Feel free to let me know if you agree with my choices or have other candidates. In the next video I will turn to the messy middle and talk about what I would have done to improve them.